Well, hello everyone, and welcome to this episode of the CPO Perspective. I am delighted to welcome Michael Norris, who we'll find all about in just a moment. And as we've talked about, the purpose of this podcast is to listen and to share the experiences of procurement leaders, CPOs, heads of procurement in different industries, in different parts of the world, and to understand what's on their mind. So, Michael, look, delighted to see you. Perhaps you'd like to start by just introducing yourself and where you're at.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks for the invite, Richard. It's always interesting to share share my thoughts on my career in the industry that I work within. So, just to introduce myself, so I'm the head of procurement at a company called TMS, which is the global services division of a much larger corporate business called DS Smith. So, DS Smith is a huge paper-based packaging business. I've been with that company for 6.5 years now. Can't believe that it's flown, but obviously there's been a lot of global impacts that have coloured that time, which is probably the reason why it's gone so fast, or feels like it's gone so fast. So, in terms of my career, I've actually had quite a linear career in respect of a lot of procurement people that I know within my peer group. So, I started. Really, probably when I was 16 years old, with work
Wow.
experience.
So,
So,
what, 5 years ago then?
sadly not. Sadly not. A lot more than that. So my professional career has been 28 years now. 28 years
Right.
this year. So,
Okay.
but it started when I was at school, and I got work experience at a local printers.
Right.
So, just to give some context, my family are from a print background, so I've kind of got ink in my blood, you could say, from an early age.
Got it.
So I worked at this printers for a couple of weeks, and I was working in the pre-press department, which is all of the composition and page makeup, and before ink hits the paper. And really, what I saw at that point was the beginning of the revolution in automation within our industry. So we started off; it's almost a photographic process before. And then it became highly automated, highly computerized, and it became more efficient, faster, cheaper, less labor intensive, less skilled, I guess you could say. And probably because of that, uh, the optics of what I saw then, I made a bit of a right turn because I wanted to go into manufacturing originally, like my
Okay.
father and my uncle. And I made a conscious decision to go slightly differently. However, that said, I am one of probably a rapidly reducing pool of people who did a degree in printing and packaging technology.
Goodness.
So I
Right.
was
Okay.
very targeted on what I did from a young age. Now, as part of that degree, which I did in the mid to late 90s, part of it was to take a year out in industry. So did a sandwich degree, which I know a lot of people do these days. And I ended up with a 12-month internship at Marks and Spencer at their head office when it was in Baker Street, and I was working within the printing and packaging departments, designing, buying print. We had a printing plant up in Burnley, so I was kind of working within manufacturing or associated with manufacturing, but also buying from a supply chain as well. And what that did was really turn my head into buying, purchasing, procurement, and all of those multiple facets of that. So that's really the track I've been on for my entire career. So I finished my internship at Marks and Spencer, went back to university, finished my degree. Then I started to work for Debenhams, doing a very similar job, obviously a full-time job,
Okay.
doing very similar work to what I did at Marks and Spencer. And then from that point, I moved into more of an agency environment. So I worked for an agency in London, which was buying and selling print. So print farmer, print broker. And then I made a move into more of a hybrid business. So I was headhunted at that point in time by a company that was starting to set up a managed service provision, as well as manufacturing.
Got it.
And what I did from that point was kind of my first dip of my toe into the procurement transformation, building pretty much working in a very small team, building up a supply chain, all of the process stack, the technology required
Hmm.
to help that business manage print procurement effectively. So I did that for a number of years. I was then headhunted by a company called Williams Lee, who were the gold standard of print outsourcing, probably globally, I'd say. So a huge business, well respected business. I went in there as a category manager, and then kind of worked my way through a period of change. They were bought and sold a couple of times in my 8 years there.
Right.
But what it allowed me to do was be more exposed to a global business. It's my career up to that date was kind of very UK and European focused. So it
Hmm.
exposed me to a much wider geography, much wider range of categories, a hugely professional environment as well. I came in and I helped build or helped improve things, but a lot of it was already built. The reason for
Right.
being
Okay.
the SIPs,
Very well established kind of industry
yeah,
business
and
categories. Yeah.
the SIPs certified
Hmm.
processes were already in place,
Right.
and all we did was tweak them and nuance them to make sure they were fit for purpose for the future needs and the future growth of the business and our customers as well. Because we're effectively, as a managed service provider, we were effectively a middleman. Um, and then so roll on 8 years of working with some fantastic brands, heavy focus on retail and FMCG brands. You name it, they were one of their clients. So it exposed me to all of that. Roll on 8 years, and then TMS came knocking on the door. They were effectively a startup within the DS Smith business who was set up to become a managed service provider for one of their key clients at the time. And they asked me to come in and kind of set up a strategic sourcing team. They were at the time just a fairly immature buying function, vendor management function. So I came in, started to stitch it all together. So really coming in to build a fit for purpose team, um, and really just developing that. So having the right structure, having the right people, doing the right thing, but really based across three principles, and those three principles are still true now. So having the right supply chain, so having a good grip and a good view on capability and competitiveness, making sure we're commercially aligned, and making sure that we're managing risk in the right way. And that risk
Okay.
is really multifaceted. So it's supplier processes. We put an SRM system in, we've built the processes around that. The regulatory horizon is hugely complex, even for our business now, on a global basis, but even on an EU basis, it's becoming more and more intense. So what we've done is we've built structure. We're now continually building the processes, refining the technology that supports that as well. And it's become probably more critical in our business now because we are hugely complex. Within the realms of DS Smith, we're relatively small, but we're still a 300 million euro
Hmm.
business across 100 plus markets. So there's a
Got it.
complexity that comes with that. So what we've then done is we've stepped into a procurement excellence program in the last
Hmm.
year, because what we found was, what we still do find to a point, is we're running effectively a decentralized procurement model. So what we have is a small central team that I lead, which is part of a central management function. And then we have equivalents in our operational regions. So what we have to ensure is that hub and spoke model that we have is connected. So we're consistent, we're managing risk, we're managing our supply chain, managing commercial reason for being, and it's highly visible as well. So we use process and technology to bring it all together.
So uh, uh, if I play back what I've heard, deep experience in an industry vertical, a few side to side steps, but still very much within a vertical. As you say, it's in your blood. And you highlighted, focus on three important things: right process, managing the commercial, managing the risk, and you've got a procurement excellence program and you're focusing on developing. to the outside observer, it's kind of, you're in a good place. So I've got to ask the obvious question, which is that what actually keeps you awake at night? I mean, is there anything that, you're looking at now and thinking, actually, we're not as on track as I thought we were, or actually the risk is growing? I mean, what's your take on that journey and that approach, which is really good, by the way, to what you see today and what if I caught you sat at your desk just mulling over what's going on, what's going on in Michael's mind?
Well, I was asked this question a few weeks ago by one of the leadership team in our business,
Right.
and I think of procurement in the TMS business is a house. And what we've now done over the last 5 or 6 years, we've built the structure. So the timber frame's up. We're now building the brickworks around it to give it the right aesthetics. So,
Okay.
and more strength. So we're very much there. We're building, I'd say, in terms of procurement maturity. And I can talk to this because I've done the assessment as part of our procurement excellence program. The ambition is to get us to a high performing function, kind of the SIPs validated view of what a high performing function is.
Okay. Yeah.
So that's front of mind whenever I'm thinking about how do we drive procurement excellence. So what we now do is we measure it, properly measure it. It's not a gut feel anymore. We've got very, very clear KPIs. We're extremely well connected even through the decentralized model. So if we're falling short in any area, or if there's any area of risk, we see it, we can touch it. We're communicating, within the business as well. Obviously, when it comes to regulatory matters, which are moving really at pace, we have to be across all of that as well. So we're horizon scanning. We work as part of a wider team within the DS Smith group as well. So there's quite a few shared objectives, even though they're a manufacturer and we're an importer or a supplier or a distributor, whichever the definition of our business is. We still work within that organizational structure. So there's a lot of strength that we can draw from group as well, and we take advantage of that, to be honest with you. But we have to make sure that everything we do is fit for purpose for our business. So that's very much where we are at the moment. So I'd say on a scale of 1 to 10, we're probably at 6.
Nice.
But we're moving quickly towards the higher end of the scale.
And if you look at that 6 and, progressing it to 7, progressing it to 8 and trying not to go back to a 5 or 4, when you look at the environment that you're operating in, what's helping to push that forward? But almost more importantly, what do you see that is, presenting a real risk of taking you back to a 5 or back to a 4? I mean, what's your balance of sort of opportunity and threat, I guess, as you look at your procurement capability?
So I think one of the opportunities, or the North Star for us, is the fact that we're very well linked in with our customers. So we actively listen to what our customers need. There is an equivalency, in terms of these large corporate businesses that we work with. All of the household names that are our customers. We're very similar in terms of the way we're set up.
Right.
When it comes to sustainability strategy, or general corporate strategy, or even procurement structures, we talk the same language.
That's really interesting.
And that really helps when it comes to credibility, and when it comes to getting to the heart of what you actually need to do to keep your customers happy and keep things, keep the momentum going. It's really important to have that connection.
If I may just ask a follow-on on that thing, because I completely agree with you that, the ability to talk to people, to actually know who you're talking to, whether they're inside your business or they're in your customers or they're with your suppliers. I mean, one of the things, and it is a stereotype. We hear that kind of the next generation that are beginning to come in are perhaps not so confident in their interpersonal skills. They're more inclined to use email or messages, or God forbid, voice notes, rather than actually what I would call taking a coffee, sitting down and getting to know them. I mean, are you observing that, or is that just a stereotype that doesn't apply?
I I would say so. I mean, I've got two older teenage daughters, and I witness it
Okay,
almost on a
right.
daily basis. So, absolutely. I mean, one of the things actually that came up recently when I was giving my eldest daughter a pep talk was the power of the network. So, from the
Right.
very early days of my career, I've networked, and I still continue to network to this day. So, whether it's peers, whether it's people who you may not have a mutual use for at the time, but you keep the contact going, so you never know when things are gonna spring up the way you think, oh, I know somebody who can help me there. And the same is true of me. So I get contacted regularly through LinkedIn and other channels. Oh, can you help me with this, or can I pick your brains about something? And that's built on the fact that having those interpersonal connections really do help. They help to progress your career. The last three job moves I've been through being headhunted because of people who know me, not through agencies, not through kind of a
Yeah.
more of a
Yeah.
formal job
Yeah.
application. It's been through referrals. Um, and I think probably one of the critical things for me is because no one really helped me early on in my career, I now like to pay back. So in recent times, I've got one at the moment, actually. I've had students who have contacted me through LinkedIn asking for just a discussion. How can I do this? How can I do that? And I'll give them time. I make a point of saying, you can have 45 minutes of my time and we can talk it through and I'll help you. I've also registered as a mentor within our group as well,
Okay, good for
because,
you. Yeah.
I think the age I'm at now, I don't know it all. I'd never say that, but I know enough now to be able to play back and help other people. And I think that's important.
And do you think? I mean, and I very much admire this principle of networking, of just frankly, just building personal relationships with people, because the more you do it, the easier it gets. And I tend to be on this might surprise you, on my MBTI, I'm a borderline introvert extrovert. I can kind of flip both ways. I'm happy on stage, but put me in a cocktail party, it's not my territory. Do you think that this ability to network, to talk, to build relationships? I mean, in your experience, I guess through your center of excellence work, do you think this is something that you are actively focusing on building in your team, or do you think it's there, or do you think it's just something that you can't build and you just have to recruit the right people? I'm just interested in your take on how you drive that as a skill within your team.
I think having the KPIs definitely helps, because it helps focus the team on what's important and what they're being measured against without going too corporate. That's where the focus is. When it comes to things like stakeholder management, I mean, I've been fortunate in my career to have actual training in that. So it was highlighted, by myself and by my line manager at the time. It was a gap for me, stakeholder management, because principle of, driving strategy, you can build the best strategy in the world, but unless you've got the stakeholders on board, it won't land. So,
Totally agree. So I'm going to ask you, because I'm fascinated. I think you're one of the only people I've ever heard, in all the hundreds of people I've spoken to, who's had stakeholder management training. What did that look like? What was it? Was it a sit in a classroom and read a book? I guess it wasn't a sit in a classroom and read a book exercise.
so it
No,
was yeah. I mean, this was when I worked at Williams Lee, so it
right,
was owned by DHL at the time.
okay,
DHL's corporate training is absolutely fantastic.
right,
Totally took advantage of that.
yeah, absolutely.
So it was several days of classroom learning. So there was a cohort of 12 or 15 people in the room. You do a lot of interactive things. You'd have,
Yeah,
kind of presenting with impact. So you do the video recorded
wonderful.
presentations. They'd play it back to you. How did that land? What was your body language like? Tone of voice, that kind of thing. And you'd just be put into real world situations, or potential real world situations, where your desire for something to land was not maybe
Mhm.
matched by one of your stakeholders. How do you manage that? Well, you appeal to
Yeah, that's
to
so
what's important to
interesting.
them.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'm listening, and I agree with you completely, because I think that is one of the biggest challenges for procurement professionals. There's no doubt that we do great work, and we come up with great solutions, and it's backed by great analysis. But it's more often than not, I'll talk to a category manager, and it's exactly as you say. Their challenges, they can't make their solution land. They just haven't either got the relationship or the trust from the stakeholder. Or they haven't got the influencing skills. There's something missing, and as you say, it can be taught, but it's got to be practiced. It's not a textbook exercise. It's something you've got to do and do and do.
And
Oh, go on. Sorry.
I was going to say, and in terms of stakeholder management, I think it's listening to what the stakeholders are telling you as well. Because I do court, not too much, but I do court opinion. I like feedback because it tailors what you do in the future. So even now in my late 40s, I'm still actively seeking feedback, and it colours what I do even to this day. Some of the presentations that we do in procurement can be quite dry. If I'm talking to a procurement person, detail against detail, they love it, and I love detail as well. But what I've had to do when I'm talking to a different stakeholder collective is simplify the message, and it's more about the power of storytelling and the visual that you're doing. And there's a principle that we try and do in our business. It's 5-5-5. It's like 5 subjects, 5 bullet points, and then you go into the detail on the last slide. So it's really just keeping it simple, keeping it high level, but being able to talk to the detail if you need to.
Joe, I'm going to get the name wrong. There's a slide technique, isn't there? I think is it Petaculture or something like that, which is like you do 20. I'll get the numbers wrong. 20 slides or 20 seconds per slide. So it's always a fixed length presentation, and it's highly visual. So you're effectively narrating backed by a sequence of images. I mean, I happen to believe very strongly in what you've just said, which is I'm thanks to my time in McKinsey, I'm no fan of PowerPoint, and I think PowerPoint is actually our curse, because we've lost sight of the business reality, which is our stakeholders don't really care about our PowerPoint deck. They don't really care about our analysis. It's like, if a leadership team went to one of your printers, the printer's not going to explain the process by which they set out the typesetting or configured the rollers or whatever else they did, or how they had to adjust for humidity on any given day. The business question is, are we going to manage the run to hit the volume by 5 o'clock tonight? The answer they're interested in is yes or no. And if it's no, and I'm doing this to rectify it, so we'll be ready 15 minutes, or whatever it is. And I do wonder sometimes that, as you've just said, procurement, we do the good work, but we shouldn't talk about the good work. We should focus on that relationship with stakeholders where we listen to what they want us to do, and we tell them that we can do it and this is how. And hopefully that relationship is strong enough that they trust us and they go with it. And I often wonder if we actually kill the relationship by giving them the 40, or as you say, 15-page PowerPoint deck, which contains all of our good thinking. It's interesting, isn't it?
It is, yeah. It's almost like a lot of the time it's a validation of, are you doing the right thing? And even today, like an hour before this session, I had a message from a colleague saying that one of our customers wanted to know about our quality management process with our supply chain. Because we have one, of course, and we manage risk, and there's very little that goes wrong in our business for such a complex business because we've got it well controlled. But what we don't do is we don't always make things visible. When you get into that, and it's getting that balance right between not enough detail, as in they can't see it, therefore they don't think it exists, versus giving them too much detail, and it's like you turn them off completely. So getting that sweet spot. You want to know about a quality process, right? I'll talk to you for 5 minutes about what it looks like, how we manage it, why it's fit for purpose, and why you can, kind of be rest assured that we've got the right controls in place.
Got it. Now, I'm very conscious of time. I've got 2 quick questions for you. And the first one actually comes from an observation. You haven't mentioned AI once in the 25 minutes that we've been talking. And that's an amazing feat, because it's in every conversation everywhere. Just very quickly, what's your personal perspective on AI in procurement, and particularly for your team? What does it mean to you?
So I was at a conference a few weeks ago in London, and it wasn't just AI, but AI cropped up in one of the subjects. And there was with iValuer. And it's very interesting because there was a presentation. It was putting a shiny AI capability over the top of bad process or bad technology or bad data will not solve your problems. And I think we are looking at AI, of course we are, but we're taking a very measured view against it,
Very
because
good.
when it comes to technology in our business, process and data, there's certain elements of those we've got to fix before we put the shiny silver bullet over the top of it. So we're looking at use cases at the moment. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm interested in automation of repeatable tasks,
Yep. Yep.
document validation, potentially moving to document creation. Now, we're looking probably 2 to 3 years in the future for this stuff. We're not going to hit really any of this. We've got some AI functionality in our SRM tool, which we're now starting to bring in, but it's really, without being too derogatory, it's almost like the Microsoft paperclip, if you remember that a
Yes,
few
I do
years ago.
remember
It's
that.
almost like, oh, you're
Yeah.
looking to do something, let me help you. So it's almost
Yeah,
like a
I'd happily
guide.
forgotten about that, by the way.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's almost like a guide or a guide
Yeah.
that sits
Yeah.
within the
Yeah.
system.
Goodness, yeah.
When it moved beyond that, we're starting to look at use cases, but we're exercising some level of caution because I don't think it's quite there yet. I mean, we use Copilot as a tool, and yeah.
I think that's such good advice. Sort out your house first. Data process, get that as good as it can be before you let AI or indeed any other tech anywhere near it. So, Michael, last question, 30 seconds. If you were offering a piece of advice to someone considering a move into procurement or someone beginning to follow that procurement journey, what, based on your journey and your experience, and I kind of think I'm going to guess what the answer is going to be. What piece of advice would you give?
Believe in the power of the network from day one. Network, because it will help. It will stand you in good stead for your entire career.
Okay, I won my bet, but do you know what? That takes nothing away from the fact that I think it's brilliant advice. Talk to people, build relationships, because you never know when they're going to come in handy. Wonderful. Michael, look, it's been an absolute pleasure, and thank you for sharing your journey, your experience, and your thoughts on where our wonderful profession of procurement sits. And I hope you do go to another conference soon. It would be great to meet up and network with you over a glass of wine or water or whatever takes your fancy.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
Michael, for now, thank you very much indeed.
Great.
Goodbye.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Bye bye.